Hi, this is GILA. Today, Harvey Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison for serious sexual crimes against women, namely 20 years for forcibly performing oral sex on production assistant Mimi Haleyi in 2006, as well as 3 years for third-degree rape, which is non-consensual sex but with no provable aggravating circumstances, for the attack on Jessica Mann in 2013. As Mr. Weinstein is about to turn 68 this month, that means he is likely to die in prison or be over 90 if released unless he's paroled earlier. Effectively a life sentence. He's not been found guilty in court of all the allegations made against him, and of course there are many other women who claim he sexually assaulted or raped them. Anyone who has suffered from the devastation of being raped or abused, and sadly that is many people in this world, and it does include men as well as the majority of victims, usually being women or children, is likely to feel that a life sentence is ultimately what he deserves, or worse. However, although it is imperative that all victims of sexual assault, rape or abuse should be able to speak out if they choose and name openly what's been done to them, and in a normal course of events, most people who claim such crimes have been committed against them are likely to be telling the truth. Nevertheless, in a civilized society, we need a proper justice system and a fair bar for an actual conviction. Which means, of course, that some perpetrators will never be convicted. But in the end, isn't it surely better that some criminals manage to escape justice rather than one innocent person should be wrongly convicted of such heinous crimes? Personally, as a believer that we will all face the ultimate judge and have to account for our lives to him after we've left this world, I've no doubt that, although, for instance, Jeffrey Epstein escaped any real justice in this life, he will not actually find it so easy to do so in the hereafter. Which brings me back to Tommy Robinson and the sexual assault on his 8-year-old daughter, and the rape and abuse epidemic of children in Britain from gangs of mostly Muslim men. Whoever the predator is, the damage to a person's life from rape or abuse is incalculable. With determined effort over years and sustained support from others in your recovery, it can be possible to move on, to use whatever you've been through for good, to grow in places that perhaps would never have been opened up had you not gone through such deep pain and torture, and to make a good and even enjoyable life for yourself in the future. But you can never forget. The deep invisible scars inside you are still there and can be opened unexpectedly, as was undoubtedly the case for many abuse survivors when the reality of the crimes that the late Jimmy Savile committed was publicly revealed. It is, in effect, a life sentence. You are never the same person afterwards. And some survivors, tragically, are never able to move on. Rape and abuse are ultimately about power, about feeling good in yourself by humiliating, hurting, and damaging other people, using them as toys for your own sick amusement. These crimes are deliberate, and they're usually carefully calculated. And if children, who by their very immaturity are especially vulnerable and are still in the delicate process of gradually forming what is to become their adult sense of self, are the victims, that is surely even worse, in my opinion, than the appalling damage that can be done to adult survivors, who at least have the chance to grow up without being the victims of such appalling crimes. Tragically, the ideology of Islam not only permits Muslims to abuse or even to murder other human beings simply because of their beliefs, but it allows the sexual slavery, in other words, the rape and abuse of non-Muslim girls, even as young as 11 or 12. And because the Islamic prophet Muhammad was consummated his marriage with his favourite wife Aisha at the age of 9, when she was recorded as still playing with dolls and not having reached puberty even, child marriage with girls as young as 9 is allowed in some Islamic countries which are run under strict Sharia law, for instance in Iran. Now, it should not matter if anyone out there is offended by my or any other person's pointing out the deep ethical flaws contained within certain parts of Islamic ideology. It's not to say there aren't good parts too, but we're talking about these particular parts, because evil is evil. And all of us as human beings who can reason and feel ultimately have a responsibility, surely, to do what we can to protect children and other vulnerable people from having their lives damaged in any way by sexual predators. Those particular teachings contained within Islamic ideology, which permit the abuse or even the murder of other human beings, especially children, simply because they are not Muslims, are evil. There's no other word for it. They are evil, they are wrong. And all those of us, including Muslims, who care about human rights for everyone, irrespective of any differences, whether of ethnicity, gender, or belief, not only have the right to stand up and say so openly and publicly, ultimately, I believe we have the moral duty to do so, if we care. We need to speak out. So I would like to wish a good life to all survivors of rape and abuse. And if anyone who sees this is presently struggling with the personal destruction of everything that is good about being a human being, which can be caused by such appalling crimes, please be assured there is a way forward. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, slowly but surely, to make a new life for yourself that is truly worth living. While there's no way back to who you were, there are plenty of people and resources nowadays that can help you regain and to recreate a real sense of worthwhile self, to use what you have been through, hopefully even to become better than who you were originally. And with your own determination over time, even if it takes years, I do believe you will truly get there. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day, a good rest of the week, a good weekend, a good life. Thank you. Goodbye.